Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. And of course, thank you for your continued support of our California, Nevada chats. My name is Len Dumas, Executive Director for the Northern California section. And we've got a great session today. And, as we work our way through last week's midterm elections, there are still one or two things to be decided. But we are fortunate that our game continues to meet the current challenges and move onward with some great momentum and news into 2023. So, of course, thanks to our California, Nevada chat team, Team SC Tom Addis, Executive Director and CEO, Nikki Gatch, Assistant Executive Director and COO, Jeff Johnson, our own JJ, Chief Financial Officer, and our on-air team, Bryce Seaver, Danny Cross, Steve Monday, and of course, Shelby Sell, here in Northern California. So for today, we're really fortunate to have the newest secretary of the PGA of America, Nathan Carnes from the Gateway section. Nathan will join us, and then we'll speak with our locals, with Nikki Gatch, as her time as the first female president of the Southern California Golf Association. We do have a special guest, and of course, our conscience on the legislative front, Director of Public Affairs for the Southern California Golf Association, Craig Kessler. So let's get started. And our opening remarks from Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of Southern California section, Mr. Tom Addis. Tom?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. And Nathan, welcome. Nikki, thanks for being here. And Craig, as always, we look forward to your advice and expertise as we move along through these times in California and beyond. So we're looking forward to a nice holiday season. I hope you are as well. And what we will do is this will be the last broadcast or final broadcast of 2022. And we'll look to January, a Friday in January, to meet with you again. So with that being said, I bring greetings from our president, Robin Shelton, and our incoming president, Eric Lohman. So by the time we meet again, Mr. Lohman will be the president of the Southern California PGA and bring his greetings. So thank you for all of you being here and your loyalty over the past couple of years. We appreciate that, and look forward to the next hour. Len?
Okay, thank you, Tom. And Northern California President Eric Lippert will be able to join us later on. So we'll look forward to hearing from and hopefully seeing Eric. And let's get started. First, congratulations to Nathan Carnes as our newest secretary of the PGA of America. And in 4 short years, Nathan, the 45th president of the association. So Nathan, it was great to be with you in Arizona last week and 10 days ago. And I know you're on the road now in the state of Michigan, attending a son's hockey game, I believe. So thank you for joining us while you're driving. Nathan, please tell us about the journey, your experience with the PGA, your time on the board, and that moment when maybe you more than likely received that poke on the shoulder to say, hey, Nathan, you might want to think about running for secretary. So welcome, Nathan.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Len. And yeah, sorry I'm not on video, everybody. I am driving. I'm en route from St. Louis to Ann Arbor, Michigan for a hockey tournament. And I just appreciate the invite to be on and connect with everybody. I've been, a little bit about me and that journey you asked about. I've been involved with the PGA for the last 20 years. I've been around it my entire life. My dad's a PGA member. I grew up in Southern Indiana. Son of a golf pro, and got into the business shortly after getting out of college, and spent a couple of years in Indiana and Kentucky, but then made the relocation over to St. Louis back in, it would have been May of 2004. And I immediately got involved with the section from a playing and just involved with section committees standpoint, mostly because I didn't know anybody. I mean, I like to play golf, but I didn't know anybody, so I wanted to meet people. And that just grew over the years. I worked myself through some committees and then was elected to serve as a section officer. And the timing was perfect that right after I was done with those 8 years in the boardroom, it was turned for the Gateway section to elect a district director. So I ran for that and was honored to be elected. And I spent 4 years in the national boardroom. And the timing was perfect again for me because as that was ending about a year ago, was a time that, is that year leading up to the campaign for national office. So through a lot of conversations and a lot of encouragements from fellow board members, some past leaders, some other people from around the country, the stars kind of aligned for me to put my name in the hat to go for the national office. And that's what I've spent my last year doing. And it's been, honestly, the journey has been awesome. It's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed getting to know so many people and learning so much about, I have broadened my horizons and I've learned so much about what's going on just around the entire country and so many different topics and issues and situations and the good, the bad, and the ugly. And spent all year just soaking that in and asking lots of questions. And hopefully that will put me in a really good spot to jump in and just be an effective leader day one, which it was an exciting week a couple weeks ago. I got to share it with my family. It was a very special moment, and they throw you right in the fire. The very next Monday, I had 5 calls. I had 5 calls the very next Tuesday, and right now I'm kind of getting settled into my new normal of managing my family at home, my role at my facility, as well as being the secretary of the PGA of America. But I'm so excited, and I'm really looking forward to continuing to get to know everybody and seeing what we can do together to improve not just the game, but situations and different, all sorts of different topics affecting golf professionals and the golf industry around the country.
So thank you, Nathan. And going back up just a little bit more to your Gateway section, you mentioned 2004. I also believe, Nathan, that you were a big part of establishing the foundation in the Gateway section. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that was also the genesis of the PGA Reach program.
That's correct. Yeah.
Hope?
Yeah, you're exactly correct. When I was on the board back in 2009, we created our Gateway PGA Foundation, which was, the original intent of our foundation was golf in schools, youth, and community. And it was a few years later that the section partnered with Bellerive Country Club because Bellerive was currently bidding they wanted a PGA championship. Long story short, between the Gateway PGA Board and Bellerive Country Club, the steering committee they had, the idea of leaving an impact on a community was talked about, and Reach was created. So when we created Reach and the Gateway, it was an acronym for Recreation, Education, Awareness, and Community and Health. And we had ideas on how we could leverage that championship to leave a lasting impact on a community. And we actually thought that it's something the PGA could use and require other sections to do if they wanted to host a major championship. So early on, it went over so well that Bellerive got the 13 senior and the 18 PGA championship. But it wasn't soon after that some national leaders within the PGA started talking to the Gateway section at Bellerive about what is Reach, how did you do it? And then later on, pretty much asked for an approval from our section to adopt the name, even though the acronym's not there anymore, both locally and nationally, but at least the name of Reach. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's really awesome. We've got a lot of pride in that started in the Gateway section. We're a pretty small section, and to know what it's turned into is pretty special for us.
Yeah, I would have to say that was particularly powerful, Nathan, the 2018 PGA Championship at Bellerive, and a great testimony to the game and to the communities, because not long before that PGA Championship and not far from that PGA Championship, really the Black Lives Matter movement got started, but yet the championship couldn't have been any better. The communities were brought together, the organizations were brought together, and it was just a complete success. It
really was. And when we actually had a lot of situations in St. Louis that touches really close to home with that. And so it was important, and it was special for not just all communities, but especially for the St. Louis community. But it was a huge success, I think, for everybody involved. And, hopefully, I know that some champ sites are still talking with Bellerive about some things that they did and what went well and learning from it as they continue. There's this great network of those host facilities. And I know that some of them, even 6-7 years out, are already in the conversation about things to do because so much planning is required. But there's a great network of stuff you can learn from to try and do something through those championships.
Hey, Nathan, this is Tom. Being newly elected and the excitement that brings, and not to just you, but your whole family and your section, and it is very exciting. What do you see? This doesn't need to be a long answer, but maybe in kind of a summary, what do you see being brand new and going through a campaign year, where the focus of the PGA stands, and where you see the focus of the PGA as time goes on?
Well, there's no doubt that I think and I said it in my speech at the annual meeting, I think that probably 90% of my conversations, and I've asked a lot of questions over the last 14 months, but 90% of those conversations with section members have been about recruitment, retention, compensation, employment, work-life balance. Those kind of are, all connected and impact all PGA members. Now you turn from a national PGA staff and program standpoint, I know they are also putting a lot of attention into those areas because the industry is booming. It's never been busier. There's never been more of a demand in our facilities and on our tee sheets, and in a lot of areas there's never been less staff. There's never been more stress on people. So and it's the chicken and the egg argument right now is a lot of people think, do we solve it with recruitment or retention, or is it both, or is it work-life balance? Should work-life balance be figured out before we can even figure out recruitment and retention? But they're all connected, and I know that's a hot topic for most people. Beyond that, I think the PGA really needs to do, and I think you all are a great example of this. I think that we need to do a better job of engaging and helping locally on what is affecting your regions. And there are certain parts of the country that I knew there was situations and stuff affecting facilities and employment in different parts of our industry, but I didn't realize the level that it was, and I didn't realize what resources locally sections were putting in to try and help in those areas. And I think that there, as much as a lot of stuff that PGA does, we try to create these programs that fit for everybody. They really don't. At the end of the day, a lot of our programs have to be customizable, whether we're talking to Northern, Southern California, Nevada, or New England, or St. Louis, Missouri. We're just so different in the challenges we're facing, and I think we need to I think we really need to do a good job of understanding what that region and what that area needs our assistance with.
Well said. Thank you.
Nathan, to take that, great segue, Tom, thank you. To take that a step further, let's talk about the impact of our new headquarters in Frisco on that. And we've all been club professionals at one point or another, and to some extent, it's always about recruiting and retaining. So how do you feel the influence of PGA Frisco, which is just an incredible facility, will serve in that role as a recruiting tool, but also as a retention tool?
Well, I believe that Frisco I think it could be very impactful on both of those. But I think that what will be interesting to see is how we can take that impact into the other parts of the country, right? I mean, it's going to be a lot easier for that impact to be seen locally in the Dallas market. But what can we leverage that relationship or those partners or those opportunities for people to come in and get their baseline education, whether it's assistance or continuing education for our members, but how can we leverage that facility to drive a deeper impact to all the members across the country, I think is the question that really we need to try and figure out here sooner rather than later, because that's the hard part, right? It's as awesome as it's going to be when you go there, it's taking it home, it's making it impactful at home. And that's going to be the challenge.
But yeah, it's a new experience, Nathan, for sure, and something to be very proud of. And as we have had great success, and particularly, yourself, the officer team, the board, and such, working through the deferred compensation plan with the IRS after so many years, is there a sense that could lead to down the road, sometimes one step at a time is a more prudent way to go? Some of the other opening some of the other doors to some of the long sought after initiatives such as healthcare and so on, without moving too quickly?
I think there's definitely a hope there. I know that when I was on the board, they made it very clear that they're very separate, very different, and they're not connected in any way. But there's still a feeling that there might be an opportunity to get some more assistance from some of the partners that PGA has to try and offer the better healthcare offerings that we have or don't have, I should say. But again, all the information that I was always given, that two very separate things. And as much as we've had good news on deferred compensation, and that should start next year, and they've already earmarked the money, and people they're they're getting ready to, I think, at the merchandise show debut the plan on how you can kind of check those boxes to get your funding. And it's going to be great for our younger generation of golf professionals for sure, so they can accrue that money. Unfortunately, I don't know that it's truly connected to the healthcare side of the equation. Now, I also know at the same time that they are still doing as much research and digging as they can on the healthcare side, but it's a much more difficult one to offer given the nature of the association and how we're all not employees. At the end of the day, it's an association and we all pay these dues, but it's not like we're all the 30,000 employees under one parent company.
All right, but yet a landmark really, Nathan, in getting to the deferred compensation. So again, thank you to everybody that was involved in that. And Nathan, tell us about your officer team. We've got, it's been such a great contrast, Susie to Jim, to John, and to Don, to yourself, in terms of skill sets, in terms of personalities. It's just been terrific. I mean, all leaders all the way. So you mentioned, and not too surprised, right? 5 minutes after the annual meeting ended, that there was the first session. So have you had an opportunity to sit with just John and Don and maybe even Jim and just run down what just happened and the plan for the next few years?
We've had a few phone calls and a lot of text messages. We haven't had a chance to sit down. We will very soon. We've got board planning. Well, we've got some quick committee meetings, and I've got a board of control meeting the week after Thanksgiving, which is my first travel engagement since being elected. But in the middle of December, we've got a 2-day of board training, a board meeting, and then 2 days of officer planning. So we're going to spend a lot of time that week of December and talk about a lot. Since the election, it's mostly been just a few calls and text messages, and I've had a lot of calls. I've been basically downloading information, I've been invited to a lot of phone calls and trying to get up to date on a lot of topics. And, I have an advantage of only being out of the boardroom for a year. So a lot of the topics I've minus the information for the last 12 months, I'm pretty up to date on. I was able to get a lot of information throughout the campaign, but there's so much more that the officers do and are involved with compared to just a board member, that there's a lot of things that I'm learning daily. But you talk about the officer corps, how you started the question. I'm excited. I got to work with John and Don in the boardroom. Through my time in the boardroom, I feel like we've got a great relationship. We have very different ways we think about things, which I think is good. We have different personalities. I joke with Don that his emotion and my logic could be a very good combination, because we're going to be together for 4 years, my 6 years. So, but I'm very excited about the group, and I think that there'll be a good balance, and hopefully we'll get some stuff done.
Yeah, don't doubt that, Nathan, at all. And, Don has that, as you mentioned, with his excitement as a baseball umpire. So it must have been, asked him one time, it must be hard to have tossed someone out of the game. And his famous answer, which is, I never threw anybody out of the game. I just reminded them of what they just did to get themselves thrown out. So that's a great attitude there. Nathan, as you put the committees together and such, it's been very diverse across the country in terms of inclusion. Do you see that continuing? And do you help President Lindert make some of those decisions?
I think that will continue for sure, just in the short conversations we've had. I'm being included a little bit right now. A lot of the stuff that he's put into motion started 6 months ago. He started working on his committees, to have it ready for this time. And that it takes a while. It's having conversations with committee chairs, committee members. So a lot of the stuff he's done, he's been working on for 6 months. So by the time I was elected, it's mostly filled a few spots. He is changing how some of the committees work. He's going to have a couple, I think I kind of call them super committees and then subcommittees to report up to him. But there is input I'm giving there on a few positions, but it's mostly kind of set and has been over the last few months. But I look forward to helping out where I can, and then I think I'll play a more active role in a couple of years, which will be here before we know it, when it transitions from John over to Don.
Yeah, it goes really, really quickly, Nathan, for sure. So Nathan, let's go back to the campaign trail just for a moment. Kind of a unique situation this year, having 3 candidates, which became 2, which became 1. And do you feel that the super regionals were a turning point necessarily for you?
Yeah, it definitely was a unique year as it relates to the campaign. I think it didn't kind of turn out the way any of us thought because we've never really seen a situation where people um, dropped out of the race in the way that they did. For me and my team, absolutely, the super regionals. I think that's where we want it. I knew a year ago going into it that at a national level, my last name was probably known a little bit the least of the three, just because they've been around longer. They've probably done more. Their resumes have more committees, more involvement at a national level than I do. So I knew I had to come out at super regionals and really make an impression. And I knew I had to be the most prepared. And I think we achieved that. And I came out and really turned some heads at super regionals. And it was right after that I started getting some letters of support, which kind of created, I think, the environment that it turned out to be. So super regionals was huge for my team, and it's definitely where we want it.
And I can say that it was a turning point for us here in Northern California. Nathan, job very well done. Obviously, the result is there. And Nathan, let's talk a little bit about Frisco, because next year is a big deal. We've got everything. We know staff is in place. We had a wonderful get together in early August, but yet we have the KitchenAid Senior PGA coming up, which is the launch of the first of the golf courses being open, but yet we are ready for the Omni and all the other buildings to be open, correct? No.
That is correct. The headquarter building opened, last summer. The grand opening was in August, but I think they started moving people in the early summertime. The last I heard, the resort component and a lot of the other areas, the clubhouse, not sure about the shopping village, but I think was set to open around May of this year. Of course, we're hosting the senior PGA in May, so that's one heck of a deadline to get that thing open. But it is, I think probably I know there's been some delays going all the way back to the pandemic on the resort side. When it's all said and done, the total campus, it is going to be an unbelievable property and so much to do and see and experience there. And it is a very exciting time, and look forward to seeing that evolve over the coming years. And the staff is slowly starting to. I was just on a call the other day. I think right now we've got 170 employees in Frisco and about 70 in South Florida, and all positions are getting filled in Frisco now. So over the coming years, that'll continue to transition to where you have more of that. I would say more than 90-95% of the staff working out of the Frisco area.
Nathan, that's terrific. And is the North Texas has North Texas section moved in yet?
I believe they did. That's a great question. I have to follow up, but I know that when we were down there in August, I was talking with Mark Harrison and Jake McCollum, their president, and I thought they were either getting ready to move in or just did, but I know they were close. A couple delays on their end as well, but I knew it was close.
That's great. Well, tremendous work there. So Nathan, thank you. I mean, thank you for your time. Thank you for running for office. We know that it's a tremendous toll, certainly emotionally, personally, the time. We need to have your family close, and you did that financially and on, but yet here we are. So congratulations. I know that I think it's safe to say I can speak for Southern California and probably our district, Aloha. And in that you have our support. But Nathan, some thoughts from you about the next couple of years, and we're listening.
Sorry about that. I could get myself unmuted there for a second. No, thank you, Lynn. I appreciate you all having me on. And I would say for the thoughts for the next couple of years is I'm really going to take the next couple months and continue to just soak in a lot of information and try to create a plan of where I can be and we can be the most impactful. Continue to have these conversations with your leaders in your areas, and to try to, I just sent out an email last week to I have all this information from the campaign over the last 14 months about what's important in the areas, but I sent another email and I asked the sections just to give me some feedback about a couple of things that are great and a couple of things that we need to work on to try and almost validate that information and use that to shape the next few years to continue to work on your behalf. I have no set agenda. I have no set plan, because I think that it's, things are changing so quickly. I think we have to be ready for that. So I'm just ready to, get started and continue to work for everybody.
Great. Well, Nathan, again, thank you for your time. Congratulations. And we look forward to the future, of course. Safe driving while you're in Michigan. Enjoy the hockey games, and please pass our regards if you do see John Lindert and Kevin Helm and team Michigan. Please let everybody know that we're asking for them.
I will do. Thanks, Lynn. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, everybody, for having me
Thanks,
on. I do
Nathan.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Be safe.
Thank you. Will do.
Now it's our honor and our pleasure, and thanks to Nathan and for taking the time. I wanted to mention when he was on the line that I used to do a radio show in San Diego, and Zach Johnson, right after he qualified for the tour from the Corn Ferry Tour, he was one of our guests, and he actually stopped at a phone booth on the way. This is back in 03 or 04, whatever it was, and made his call from the road. So that was very interesting. But thanks again to Nathan. Now it's my privilege to introduce a young woman who I've had the great honor and pleasure to work with for well over 15 years, 17 years. Nikki just finished her term as president of the Southern California Golf Association, which is really quite an accomplishment, especially since Nikki is the first woman to sit in that seat for the Southern California Golf Association, and one of only a few in the country to do the same, as well as being the first PGA member to serve in that capacity with an amateur association. So we're very pleased and very happy. And Nikki, congratulations on a great year. I know it was, in one regard, was tough because you were mixing your position here with the section along with the SCGA, and you did a masterful job. And I'm so proud of you, as we all are. And thanks for sharing some time with us today about that journey and how you feel and where you think the SCGA went and where you think the SCGA will go in the future. And again, thanks for being with us, and look forward to the next couple of minutes.
Thank you, Tom. And thanks for calling me young woman. I really appreciate that. It was hard for you. Thanks for having me. Do I start, or is Lynn,
go for it.
okay,
Where you?
okay.
I'm sorry, I kind of blended, as I do sometimes, that comment question into the introduction about where you've been, where you're going with the SCGA.
Okay. Well, it was an amazing year. We serve 1-year terms as officers on the SCGA, so different than we do with our section with 2-year terms. And little mixed feelings with that. When I started, I thought, wow, this is going to go by too fast. You're just kind of getting started and figuring out what's happening with everything and kind of getting in your groove, and then it's over. But also part of me is glad that it is a 1-year term. It was a wonderful year, but there was a lot going on, not only with the association, but also for me on a personal level, trying to, start that transition with you towards the second half of this year. And then we did a lot with the SCGA, so when I look back, it was an amazing year. It went by very fast. I remember talking to many past presidents of the SCGA, and that was the one comment that was consistent from everybody, is that, enjoy every minute because it's going to go by like that. And it did. So the term was, end of October to end of this October. So about 2 weeks ago was the official end of the year. I will serve 1 more year as immediate past president. That's what we call it. Same as an honorary president role. So there will still be some things for me to do with the association, which will be great. So I'll still be involved for 1 more year, but certainly not to the extent this past year. But when I look back, I think that we accomplished quite a bit. And like Nathan mentioned, I never had any sort of agenda. I remember having several people ask me about that when I started my term, and that's not really what it was about. Similar to what Nathan said, it's really about the association. It's about the membership. What is one person going to do in 1 year You certainly don't want to disrupt things. We have an amazing staff with the SCGA, just like we do with our section. Amazing leadership and a great board. We've worked very, very hard. The SCGA has over the last probably 7 years to diversify the board. I think we've done an amazing job with that. And that doesn't just mean having a woman on the board or having a person of color on the board. It's more of a wide scope. That certainly has happened, but if you look at our board, and I think we're up to 15 now, we did bring in quite a few people during our year. We had some people that moved out of state during COVID and people that their terms were up. So we have brought in quite a few people during my year, which has been great. Most recently, 2 people who only got to serve 1 meeting with them. But if you look at the makeup of our board, it is very diverse. And with that meaning age, you'll see quite a few people like myself that are still working and still have careers. Whereas in the past, you look at the SCGA board 10 years ago, certainly 20 years ago, it's all retired folks, and that's not the case. So people still working, a lot of people working in the industry, which is great, and also different backgrounds. Geographically diverse, didn't want the SCGA to have that stigma that it may have of just being LA based. So you'll see board members from all over Southern California to really represent the region. Certainly gender diversity. I'm certainly proud and honored to be the first. I know I won't be the last. We have 3 women now on the board. We do have Lynn Haraway, who has moved into the treasurer position. So in a few years, she'll ascend up to become president as well. So that's very exciting. Azucena Maldonado also sits on the board. I'm sorry, we have 4, and Kathy Carrata, who's a highly respected and decorated player in the SCGA. So again, lots of diverse people on the board, which has been great. It's been great for conversation, great for decision making, and I've become really great friends with a lot of these people. So I will miss that part of it because just like anything with our game, it's about the people. Some of the highlights as I look back on the year, the defeat of AB 1910 or 672 or whatever we changed it to, that was certainly a concerted effort with the entire industry. We all came together and we collaborated, which was a big word for me this last year, is collaboration. That was really, really important. Again, not that I had an agenda, but if there was one sort of theme, it was collaboration, and nothing better exemplifies collaboration than what we all did to defeat that bill and the effects it could have had on our industry and our game. Certainly with the efforts of Mr. Kessler, that was the SCGA took a lead role in that. PGA and all the other entities certainly supported it, and we all did come together and collaborate, but really it was the SCGA leading that under Craig and Kevin Fitzgerald's direction. So, really, really proud of that. I remember we were at a board meeting, actually SCGA board meeting in the desert that day. I don't remember the exact date. It was in May, but that's when Craig got the official word that it had been defeated. And that was a really special day, actually, because just about an hour earlier in the board meeting, this is another highlight. Most of you may have heard of the campaign that the SCGA is part of with the U.S. Open coming to LA Country Club next year, and a pretty significant campaign to raise a lot of money for junior golf in Southern California, and also to raise money for the renovation of the Maggie Hathaway golf course and to provide an outlet for kids in that community. Multi-million-dollar campaign. And our board committed to $1 million donation to kickstart that campaign. So that was a pretty monumental moment in the boardroom. And then to get about an hour later, get that phone call that we defeated that bill was that was a special day. Another thing for me personally, one of the perks, I guess you could say, of being SCGA president is you're sort of the host of the SCGA Amateur and the SCGA Women's Amateur. And in 2020, we had to combine those events and conduct them at the same time at the same facility because we couldn't conduct any events in LA County. So Goose Creek was great and stepping up and saying, hey, we'll host both events at the same time. And I remember being there, and it was just such a great atmosphere to have the men and the women on the same property, competing in different events, but at the same time. The camaraderie was great. The atmosphere was amazing. And I remember going to the tournament team and saying, I want to do this in 2022. Typically, those events, or at least the amateur event, is held at the home course of the president. I'm not a member anywhere, so I don't technically have a home course. So it was kind of up to me as to where I wanted to go. I live in San Diego County, so I did want to stay here, and reached out to San Diego Country Club, and their leadership and membership was wonderful in embracing the concept of hosting both events. I mean, they have such a rich history there with events and with our game and with players like Billy Casper and Mickey Wright. It was just such a great fit to be able to do that. So we conducted both those events in early August, and I was there for the whole week, and it was just a really amazing event. Again, it was like Goose Creek a couple of years prior, but selfishly, I'll say better. We didn't have any COVID restraints or anything like that. Some cool things you saw is, if the women played in the morning wave, you would see some women then finishing their round and going out to caddy for whether a younger brother or a boyfriend or whatever the case may be, or just a friend. And then you saw the reverse of that. Some of the guys then caddying for some of the women. And it was just, it was really a special week. And that was certainly a highlight of my week. And I'm forever grateful to San Diego Country Club for hosting us. And then to go back on collaboration, something that, both associations have been talking about for many, many years that I can remember, and that's collaborating both associations' halls of fame. So you all will hear a little bit more about this going forward, but we are now combining the SCPGA Hall of Fame and the SCGA Hall of Fame to create the Southern California Golf Hall of Fame. We feel there's been a little bit of confusion among the golf community with both halls of fame. There's some people that are in both, and we just thought it meant a lot more sense to combine. That's a pretty powerful Hall of Fame to be in the Southern California Golf Hall of Fame. So I'm really excited that finally came to fruition. I was just lucky that it happened during my year, but we're moving forward with that, and the first induction will happen in March of 23. So really excited about that. And then finally, I want to recognize Tom. I know you're retiring, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But also Kevin Heaney, long time executive director and employee of the SCGA. I think Kevin's had almost every role at the association that you can have, from course rating to tournament director. And he served as executive director, I think, just about the same length of time as you, Tom. Yes. And he's been with the SCGA for over 30 years. So Kevin will be retiring in first quarter of next year. And so we're in the process of the very tough job of finding his replacement. And, it's we're taking our time on that. We're trying to find the right person, and I know that we will. But again, sort of a monumental moment in the association, and those board members that are part of that committee to make that decision is, that's going to be one of the biggest decisions to make as a board member, and certainly for the association. So some big things happened this year. I was just, again, lucky to be part of it, and for all those things to happen during my year. It certainly wasn't because of me. But I was fortunate to be part of the association during this exciting time, and to work alongside the board members that I have was a great experience.
Yeah, Nick, I'm pleased you mentioned Kevin, because and you used the word collaboration, which it's been a true collaboration for this period of time. Kevin started in 06, beginning of 06 when I did, and from that point, we've made a strong effort to collaborate on many things. And I think, as you mentioned, this year, the final realization of the Southern California Golf Hall of Fame is really a nice accomplishment. And and we hope that everyone enjoys that. Len, you have anything for Nikki?
So Nikki, thank you. And thanks, Tom. You know, listening and having in my role and just being in the northern part of the state, being able to watch this closely, talk a little bit about the importance of the relationship. I think it just screams itself between the amateur body and the professional body. You know, California is a massive place, but yet, you know, you have 10 counties down there, but 2 of the counties account for about 2/3 of the population of the state, right? So Nikki, that collaboration between amateur professional bodies is just vital, isn't it?
It's so important, and Tom alluded to it. And I'm going to give a ton of credit to Tom and Kevin. You know, Tom just mentioned, I mean, that was important to the both of them when they started 17 years ago. And you know, it starts with the leadership. So I think it's so important. And for me, it's sort of always been like that. Even before Tom and Kevin were the executive directors for both associations, you know, I was still working with the section prior to that. And I feel like we always have had a great relationship with the SCGA. And so I didn't think there was anything any different across the country. And unfortunately, it's not always the case across the country. And, you know, it should be. To me, it doesn't make any sense. We're all trying to essentially do the same thing, and that's to promote the game and the enjoyment of the game and be stewards of the game. And we shouldn't be looking at each other as competitors. You know, we each sort of have our niche, but there's a lot of areas where we can collaborate to, again, make it better. You know, I'll point out the swing tips that we do with the SCGA. It's a great partnership that we have that serves both their members and then gives our PGA members great exposure that's turned out to be so beneficial to them and their business. That's just one example. You know, we do team matches together. We put on the California Junior Amateur together. You know, and that was really important to me. And going forward now in my new role, and then whoever will be my counterpart at the SCGA, that's going to be a top priority is to continue what Tom and Kevin started for both associations, because it's so important for both associations and really ultimately and most importantly for our game.
Well, thank you, Nikki. You know, well said, as someone said, and it really is impactful. It's amazing what you can do when you don't care who takes the credit, right? And as you said, this was about the industry. So Nikki, congratulations. Thank you. I know we've got a lot going ahead, and we're looking forward to continuing the journey.
Thanks, Lynn. Look forward to continuing to work with you as well. Thank you.
Okay, we've got now to our conscience after all these years, the Director of Public Affairs for the Southern California Golf Association, Mr. Craig Kessler. Craig, thanks for being with us again one more time. We had an election, a midterm election about a week ago. Give us a rundown of winners, losers. As we said, we still have 1 or 2 races that are still up in the air, but how about the effects most locally here in California?
Well, just thank you, Len. And just before I do, the date, Nikki, was May 19th, and the first congratulatory text that I received when AB 1910 collapsed was from the head of government affairs for NBC Universal nationally, the whole nation. That is how closely a lot of stakeholders in the golf community, a lot of golf organizations all over this country were watching our fight here in California, and it ended up being a successful one. So, Len, in answer to your question, just about all the races are decided in California. We're still hanging on a few congressional races, but those don't really matter for us for terms of for the golf community in California. There is one interesting assembly race that hangs in the balance in the Palm Desert area. We know both candidates pretty well. Christy Holstage is the Democrat. We got to know her in her capacity as 4th District Council member of the city of Palm Springs. She was very impressive. And Greg Wallace is the Republican candidate, and it keeps going back and forth. We know he's an avid golfer and a member of a local club that I'll not name, and reached out to us during the 1910 campaign to give some support. So that will be technically a flip because the current office holder is an independent, former Republican. So putting that together, we always knew that, so what we've really watched, the one thing, and you know that, Len, and Tom knows it, Nikki knows it, because you're involved in the California Alliance for Golf, is how the speakership battle was going to turn out, and very dependent on many of those races, almost all of which are decided. We're going to have 30 new members of the California Assembly come next year, and that's quite a turnover. And that's one of the things that we've resolved to do. We resolved it in a phone call this morning, a legislative call statewide, that we need to spend a little more face time in Sacramento. We need to meet and greet a lot of the new members, explain to them the golf community, the golf industry, and the California Alliance for Golf. And we need to begin seeking out those who we believe after June 30th will be perhaps new power players and committee chairs, when Anthony Rendon, Democrat from Lakewood, who's held the speakership for many, many years, a speakership that's been in Southern California for many, many years, and he relinquishes it to Robert Rivas of San Benito County, who will be bringing a more Northern California tilt to it. And that's significant because those of us who are intimately involved in the 1910 campaign know that the years and years of working the grassroots in Southern California, work in the city councils and the planning commissions and the water districts, and ultimately even the legislative districts, that because of the alignment of committee chairs, and because the author of AB 1910 was in the heart of Southern California, it was really very much a Southern California connection and influence that allowed us to develop a strategy that ultimately strangled that bill that I called the most damaging bill to be filed against the California golf industry in my lifetime, and I hope it remains number one for a long time to come. So I'm not sharing it. It's simply a fact that the southern part of the state is much better politically organized, not because of the PGA sections, but because there's, for a lot of reasons and a lot of history I don't have time to go into, there's just been a lot closer connection. And by that, I mean, it isn't just dealing with an office or a piece of legislation when it comes up, but you'd be surprised when you toil in these fields, persons you meet in political offices, on staffers who are council members of cities, they find themselves chiefs of staff to assembly members, they find themselves assembly members. In some cases, they find themselves United States senators here in California. So that those kinds of long-term relationships matter, and that's something we looked at. And just want to assure you that that's the one thing that we looked at mostly. Also, say on the statewide level, we just came off a record surplus of close to $90 billion, and we're now looking, according to the Legislative Analyst's Office, to a record deficit next year of $25 billion. So that's a good news, bad news kind of thing. It's good news in the sense, I suppose, that anything that amounts to a 1910 or a subsidy that would go to developers and cities to chop up our golf courses, that's not going to be on the table next year. But it's going to bring back something that we have that came up many years ago that's always been sort of in the back of our minds, but hasn't been at the forefront as long as we're running surpluses. And that is the notion of taking what everyone understands is an overly volatile tax system in California that's overly reliant on sales taxes and really overly reliant on the highest marginal tax rates on the very wealthy in the state, 13.3%. They don't pay capital gains when there aren't any capital gains. And California has a pretty robust capital gains tax as well. So that oscillation could bring back to the fore discussions of a service tax. And everyone on this call should understand that California golf may be the least taxed in California than any other American state. I know that goes counter to our personal understandings of other tax rates, but there are no sales tax or service taxes associated with any aspect of a golf function unless you buy something in the golf shop. So that's not true in 22 other American states. And the property tax structure is extraordinarily benign in the sense that we have a piece in our California Constitution that mandates that all of them be taxed for property tax purposes as open space. And when you consider the land value of some of those open spaces, in a state like this where property values are the highest in the nation, you put all those things together, and that's something that's on our radar screen to be alerted to. I'm not going to discuss water today. We're in a bit of a holding pattern. We're doing amazingly well as long as we're on level 3 or level 4 drought, and that's where we are right now. When I say we're in a waiting pattern, we simply have to wait to see what Mother Nature has in store for us in January, February, and March. I'm going to keep saying this until I'm blue in the face, but we've had record November and December. It's not the rain and the snow that falls in November and December. It's the rain, and particularly the snow, that falls in January, February, March. And if we're lucky, some of it falls into the month of April in the northern part of the state as well. That's how we store and transport the water. It's not how we're going to do it in the future. And that brings in a subject I'll reserve for January or beyond, the notion that we're going to get in the next 60 years what we had in the first 60 years of the 20th century, and that is massive investments in a different water conveyance and storage infrastructure, one that's consistent with the climate as it has evolved and with the patterns that they evolve. And that isn't a question of whether, it's just a question of how it gets financed. So with that, with this end of the year, I'm going to just make it very simple and leave it at that. There's obviously a lot of complication. A number of you, I think, subscribe to SCGA public affairs updates that kind of in real time shares those sorts of things that Kevin Fitzgerald and I think are most pertinent for you to understand from a golf perspective. There's a lot of political information out there, and our goal always with those public affairs updates is to distill it down in as short as we can. I'm told sometimes it's a little bit long, but as short as we can. What does this mean for the golf community and the golf industry? And we'll continue to do that. And as long as they keep inviting me, I guess I'll continue to be on these chats in the future in 2023. And with any luck, as Nikki said, 2022 is an enormously eventful year. And what's the old Chinese proverb? May you live in interesting time. I think it's a curse. May we live in slightly less interesting times in 2023 and 2024. That's my fondest hope. And that's my last comment for you on these chats of 2022.
Thank you, Craig. And once again, thank you for all the work. And as we head into, we call it the holiday season, it's a season of celebration, but I say let's start today. And I mentioned in opening remarks about a special guest. So half of that was true. We have someone who is very special, but it's not a guest to us by any means. And that is our dear friend and colleague, Mr. Tom Addis. Tom, if you would camera on, Nikki, Eric, that would be great. And Tom is stepping down and as executive director for the Southern California section on December 31, but that's after 50 years as a PGA member and an additional decade or two before that, has mentored so many of us, has meant so much to us in so many roles. And quite honestly, it's time to say thank you, Tom. It's by no means the end, but I'd like to turn it over to Southern California President Robin Shelton. Robin.
Well, Len, thanks for the opportunity, and thank you everybody for being here. I think these Cal Chats always prove to be valuable, helpful, and insightful, whether it's government regulations or just updates on what's going on in the golf industry world. And once again, I think that happens. Always nice to hear from Nathan, and Craig continues to be just such a gift to the game, a gift to the section. And talking about Tom, I mean, Tom has been so affiliated, such a part of the section and a part of golf. And, I've been thinking about Tom for a long time in the sense of, hey, knowing that, he's going to be retiring and kind of changing roles. And Tom has just been such an icon for the game. And it's hard to describe Tom in one word. And I've been back and forth between icon and legend, professional, and I just can't come up to it exactly what it is. But I've been thinking about it for a long time, and sometimes those long thoughts eventually get the right one. And then I thought about it. Hey, there's no better description or model of PGA professional than Tom Addis. And some of us may know there's a PGA poster, that says, the PGA professional fulfills many roles but wears just one badge. And the very last thing on that poster says friend. And that's exactly what Tom is. Tom is a friend to anybody who's into the game of golf, supports the game of golf, wants to be into golf, has considered golf. But Tom is all those things of what a PGA professional is. So icon may be a word, legend may be a word, but the one that really gets to me is, hey, he's the example of what we should all aspire to be as PGA professionals. So Tom, thank you for your service. Thank you for being so dedicated to us, to the game, and being a great friend to so many. So best wishes for the future. And we're thankful for your service and what you've given to all of us.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. And Northern California Section President, Mr. Eric Lippert. Eric?
Well, thank you. Thank you, Len. Thanks, everybody. And, you know, I echo what a lot of the things that Robin said, you know, starting with these chats and the value that they provide and all those things. But the moment really here is to say a couple things about Tom. And I just want to say, you know, when I first started my journey into becoming a PGA member, it was actually in Southern California. And some of the people that I had met and the timing of that, the name Tom Addis was this mystical, legendary thing. And it was amazing. And as time has gone by, I remember kind of getting involved in these last couple of years and being at a point where now, you know, the sections kind of intersperse and there's a lot more collaborative work that's going on. And the first time thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to meet Tom Addis. I'm going to meet Tom Addis. This is going to, I was intimidated, Tom. I got to tell you, a little bit intimidated. But meeting you the very first time, you know, sometimes they say when you meet somebody, you know, be careful what you ask for. In this case, it's been everything and beyond what I could have exceeded whatever I thought it would be. And I mean that in the best way, meaning, you know, extremely approachable, just so caring about everybody and everything that you do. You put your heart and soul into making everybody around you better, which is, you know, it's easy to get the awards personally, but to look out and see around the landscape how you can make everyone better. And I think you've always done that. It's been a real pleasure for me to get to know you and spend time with you. And but you're everything that everybody says and then some. And I agree with Robin. The best part is I'd say you're a friend. And so thank you for all the service. And thanks for putting your arm around me once in a while, because I'm a little bit of an idiot and I appreciate you helping me out. So all the best to you. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Eric. Nikki?
Eric, thanks for making me giggle. I was getting ready to have tears and you always make me giggle. So thanks for that. Tom, what can I say? I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Thank you for everything. Thanks for being a mentor, a friend, a boss. I guess I could say that. But thanks for teaching me all that you have taught me the last 17 years. It's because of you that I now have this incredible honor. So thank you for that. All that you have taught me in how to treat our staff, how to treat our membership, and how to be a steward of this game. I know I have very big shoes to fill, but the preparation that you have given me and the support I know you will continue to give me will help me to be as successful as I can be. So thanks for that.
Thank you, Nikki and Len. And can I say speak now, or Len, or you? What? All right. This whole year has been exceptional. Looking to the future and looking to the future with Nikki, and what Nikki will mean to our section, along with Robin and Eric Lohman and the rest of our board and the rest of our membership is pretty special. This is beyond what I ever expected it to be. Although when I came into this position, I so looked forward to the opportunity to, I'll use the word collaborate again with other people, other individuals, other teams, but most importantly, our member. I know Nikki referred in her conversation to members of the SCGA and members of the PGA, and that's what we're all about. Len would agree. Eric and Robin would agree. And Eric, thank you so much for your very, very kind words. And we have known each other for a long time. And Robin, I've admired you for such a long time, and what you do and how you manage the section. We've had in Southern California, since I started in 06, we've had a great run of presidents and boards and our membership, and we focused on the membership. And I can honestly say, and with Nikki, we've left it that way, and it's going to continue that way. So I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud to have the opportunity and the honor to work with everyone, Craig, and the opportunity, the chance we've had to do things together for the betterment of golf and the people in golf has been extraordinarily special. Everything about it, and I think this is something that I'll treasure forever today. And these chats, where they started and what they mean, and how this sitting here right now and with all of you and being able to think back and what's gone on. And thank you so much. I just everything. Thank you so much, and look forward to the future. With the leadership of our sections, we have definitely the greatest PGA district in the country, with Aloha and Northern California and our section, Southern California, the camaraderie and we call ourselves the Ohana, and we really are. Thanks to Len and thanks to Wes for that, and our leadership for that through the years. And it's just made it a pleasure. And as well, the pleasure is mine. And the pleasure has been mine. And I thank each and every one of you for that. So thank you.
Tom, thank you. You're a part of all of us, and providing that platform for all of us to grow. And we know that we'll continue. We're just shifting a little bit, but we still have much work to do. And we'll forever be on the lookout for that T3, T4, T5 license plate whenever we're in Southern California. So, Tom, how about you wrap this up?
Yeah, thanks, Len. Yeah, thank you, everybody. This is this is the last chat of the year. Nathan, thank you so much. Eric and Robin, thank you so much for being here. And Eric's got it tough up there, sitting in his office looking out on the first tee at Pebble Beach and all that kind of stuff, but that's okay. But thank you so much, and we'll see everybody. We'll pick a date next year. It'll either be I think it's either the 7th of January or the 13th of January, one of those two. We'll let you know, and we appreciate everybody being here this morning. And again, Len and Nikki and everybody, thank you so much. Appreciate everything.
Tom, a couple of comments did come in. Tom Parker, thank you, Mr. Addis. It has been our honor. And Holly Kennedy, we love you, TA.
Yeah, thanks. It's been truly been my honor for 17 years. And I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, everyone, let's go dry up a little bit. And we wish everybody, thank you all again for the support, to getting to know each other. Our sections are almost interchangeable to a large extent. Best to everyone for the upcoming holiday season. Please stay safe. Please keep looking out for each other. Please stay in touch, and we'll see you in the new year. Ciao.
Thank you, Len.